Murray from the YSE Cookery School. In this video I'm going to take a look at the effects of cooking at altitude. Okay. Now our school is based in Val d'Isere in the French Alps. The village sits at 1850 metres above sea level. So there are a couple of adjustments that we need to consider when we're cooking, but it's not really as difficult as people often make out. Okay. The three main effects that mess about with recipes are: number one, water boils at a lower temperature. Okay, the higher up you go. Here at 1850 metres, it boils at 93 degrees. If you're sitting at the top of Mount Everest at 8,848 metres, the boiling point of water comes down as low as 72 degrees. Okay, so in this example, it would have a huge effect. Number two, the atmospheric pressure decreases, or the air becomes thinner the higher you go. And number three, the atmosphere also becomes a lot drier, making liquids evaporate quicker. Food also tends to dry out much quicker. Sometimes that can be useful, okay, because things like croutons or tuile biscuits and those sorts of things don't become soft or stale very easily. Okay, so that can be the useful side of it. So there are two key things that you need to keep in mind when you're cooking at high altitude: time and temperature. If you're boiling or simmering foods at high altitude or using a moist cooking method, it will take longer for the item to be cooked because it's cooking at a lower temperature. Okay, now the boiling point of a few degrees less than sea level might not seem like a lot, but it actually has quite a huge effect on the time that it takes to cook things like potatoes or onions and things like that, shallots, for example. Now, at our altitude of 1850 metres, we need to increase the time by up to about 25%. So the standard saucepan full of potatoes that you might cook at home takes a good hour to cook here. And sweating onions at the start of a recipe can seem like it takes an eternity. Hiking up the temperature when you're boiling or simmering something doesn't make it cook faster. Okay, the liquid will simply boil away quicker, the food will dry out. The temperature of the boiling liquid can't exceed its own boiling point. Okay, so if we're boiling a pot of water here, it's boiling at 93 degrees and that's as high as it can go. And let's use a pressure cooker. Okay, so instead, we just need to extend the cooking time and allow the food to carry on until it's cooked. It's also a good idea to keep a lid on simmering foods to prevent them drying out, and you might even add a few spoonfuls of water to things like sweating onions to prevent them from burning before they're actually cooked. Okay. This only really applies to moist cooking methods. Okay, temperature inside an oven, if it's set at 150 degrees, will still be 150 degrees. It's just that thing of the water boiling at a lower temperature. Now, with regards to lower air pressure, this affects things like cakes or doughs, bread doughs and things like that. A yeast dough will take less time to proof as the gases expand quicker, and there's less kind of force acting against the dough when it's trying to rise. Likewise with a cake, the cake will require less force to rise in the oven, so you need a little bit less of the raising agent. Okay, here at 1850 metres, I usually halve the amount of baking powder that I put into a cake, and that works quite well. So my advice is not to overthink it too much. If you are cooking at a high altitude at some point, just be aware that some things will stray away from the recipe a little bit more, especially when it comes to cooking times. But you should be paying attention to the actual dish, the actual food that you're cooking. Trust your instinct and be guided by what's actually going on in the pan instead of kind of meticulously trying to stick to the recipe. If you're using a raising agent like baking powder or bicarb of soda, then cut the quantity down a little bit, and your cake's not likely to kind of overexpand and explode. Okay? I hope that helps. Good luck. See you soon.